long before satellites mapped every coastline, and long before drones scanned every hidden valley. Entire societies flourished on mountains, islands, deserts, and forests. They built temples aligned to the stars, laid roads across impossible landscapes, carved symbols into rock that still glow with meaning. Then, to later eyes, they were simply gone. Walk today through the high mesas of the American Southwest, and you'll find multi-story stone houses built into cliffs. Ladders still lean inside empty rooms, as if families had left just moments ago. Fly over the Amazon, and you'll see nothing but endless green, until laser scanning reveals a ghost grid of canals, plazas, and raised fields stretching for kilometers. Open an old manuscript, and you'll read of islands swallowed in a single night of misfortune, a template repeated from Plato's Atlantis to Brittany's drowned city of Ys. These images grip us because they touch a deep question. Can everything we build truly vanish? In this film, you're invited to step into 5 intertwined stories, part archaeology, part legend, to see how societies rose, adapted, and moved on, and why later generations recast that slow transformation as a single mysterious disappearance. What outsiders call disappearance is usually a long reshaping, not a sudden extinction. In the Indus Valley, grid-planned brick cities once echoed with the sound of wells and workshops. When rivers shifted and trade networks faltered, populations dispersed eastward into smaller communities, carrying crafts, weights, and agricultural knowledge into later South Asian cultures. The cities faded, but their DNA lived on in language, ritual, and urban planning. On the wind-lashed edges of the Orkney Islands, communal stone houses and circles stood for centuries. Gradual cooling, rising seas, and shifting social ties led families to move into scattered farms. Island folklore compressed those decades into one night of catastrophe, a village swept away by a single storm. High in the Andes, Tiwanaku engineered raised fields and stone channels to tame the thin-air climate. Ice core records show a long drought in the 11th century. As water dwindled, regional groups reasserted autonomy. Yet their sacred icon, the staff god, and their engineering ideas seeded later Andean cultures, including the Inca. In the American Southwest, Chaco Canyon's monumental great houses were built, abandoned, and rebuilt in cycles tied to rainfall and sacred calendars. When conditions shifted, migration fulfilled prophecy rather than signaling failure. Each example looks abrupt only when viewed centuries later. Archaeology reveals decades of adjustment. Legend turns that adjustment into a decisive moment. An empty plaza, a ghost city, a myth of divine punishment or withdrawal. Every society carried not only tools and laws but also a map of meaning. Gods, heroes, numbers, and animals that explained why the world worked and what to do when it faltered. In Indus art, a horned figure sits cross-legged among wild beasts, perhaps a prototype of later South Asian deities embodying balance between order and nature. In Orkney, tiny carved figurines and stories of mound-dwelling spirits show how ancestors became guardians of the land after people moved on. Among Pueblo peoples today, masked kachinas still represent rain, animals, and moral lessons. Migration stories describe leaving one sacred stop for another at a preordained time. In the Andes, the staff god presided over creation and agriculture. Even after Tiwanaku's urban system dissolved, his image traveled into Wari and Inca iconography, proof that symbols outlive capitals. Across oceans, the template of a sunken land appears again and again. Plato's Atlantis sinks in a single day and night of misfortune. Brittany tells of the drowned city of Ys. Celtic myths recall lioness swallowed by the sea. Each story frames loss as a moral or cosmic event. Leaders break sacred order, the gods withdraw, the land sinks, turning gradual change into a vivid cautionary tale. Behind every ruin lies a language of symbols. Animals carved on pillars, numbers embedded in staircases, constellations mirrored in temple layouts. These were not decoration but living mnemonics, ways to encode calendars, ethics, and relationships with the natural world. When a civilization vanished, these codes often proved more durable than walls, surviving as folk motifs, rituals, or place names long after the original society dissolved. Across continents, vanished cultures used animals as stand-ins for cosmic forces. Macaw feathers and turkeys in Chaco Canyon signaled distant connections. Condors and pumas flanked the staff god at Tiwanaku, embodying earth and sky. Maya jaguars guard the underworld, while Neolithic seabirds in Orkney evoke migration and seasonal return. Numbers carried weight 2. 4 for the cardinal directions. 9 for layers of the underworld. 13 for lunar cycles. These numbers appear in steps, terraces, pillars, and offerings. A stepped pyramid with 9 levels echoes a 9-layered underworld myth. As long as you built or performed in these numbers, you were aligned with the cosmos. Celestial alignments formed the grandest symbols. Solstices, equinoxes, lunar standstills, all tracked in stone. At Chaco, windows frame the rising sun at the solstice. At Tiwanaku, the gateway of the sun casts a lattice of shadows marking calendrical events. These orientations were woven into ritual life, agricultural planning, and political legitimacy. When drought or invasion broke the link between ritual and harvest, legitimacy wavered. Myths of gods withdrawing or cities turning to stone poetically expressed a broken contract between sky and society. Even when cities emptied, echoes survived. Place names became fossils of language. Festivals shifted meaning but kept their date. Architectural forms, steps, grids, columns, reappeared in new contexts. Our own metaphors still betray the imprint. Atlantis projects that sink, Rome before the fall, returning to our roots. Modern science now lets us see vanished worlds more clearly. Remote sensing reveals landscapes too vast to excavate by hand. Ancient DNA reconstructs population movements. Isotope analysis traces trade across continents. These data show rich, varied pictures, not just elites and monuments but farmers, traders, children. They confirm some oral traditions, challenge others, and turn mystery into transformation. For descendant communities, these places were never lost. They are ancestral sites, part of a living geography. Myth and measurement together reveal not only what happened but how people remembered it. A flood story may encode sea level rise. A prophecy of migration may reflect real cycles of soil exhaustion and renewal. Even when details diverge, the pattern remains. Myth as a cultural hard drive storing lessons in narrative code. And that is the final message of this journey. Disappearance is rarely destruction. It is often transformation. People relocate, merge, adapt, reinvent. Languages shift, rituals change shape, but core ideas persist. These legends matter now because they are mirrors. They show that human beings have always faced uncertainty, have always responded with ritual and reason, and have always carried their knowledge forward in some form. Hold that image as you close your eyes. A silent plaza at dawn, carved spirals glowing in the stones, echoes of festivals in the air. These are not ghost stories. They are invitations to remember that everything built is part of a cycle, that what seems permanent is a chapter, not the whole book, and that the myths we tell today shape how our descendants will read us tomorrow.